The purpose of this experiment was to find the initial and final velocities of 3 different objects, using principles of projectile motion, and to determine the changes in energy. The objects used were a football, volleyball, and basketball. The horizontal length traveled during projectile motion was estimated to be 12 meters, through measurement by walking distance. The initial height was estimated to be 356 centimeters, since it was approximately double Grace's height of 178 centimeters. The final height was estimated to be 100 centimeters, since the object was caught before reaching the ground. The concept of projectile motion was used to determine several variables. In projectile motion, the object is only under the force of gravity, and we assume air resistance to be negligible. However, the gravity only acts on the vertical motion, not the horizontal motion. This means that vertical acceleration will be negative 9.8 meters per second squared, and horizontal acceleration will be 0. To determine the velocity in the x and y directions, equations of kinematics were used. For the football, the velocity in the x direction was determined to be 4.0 meters per second. The initial velocity in the y direction was determined to be 6.93 meters per second, using the horizontal velocity and the angle at which the object was thrown. The final velocity in the y direction was determined to be 9.91 meters per second, using the initial velocity, acceleration due to gravity, and height. For the volleyball and basketball trials, the resulting calculations are as shown. Both objects spent the same amount of time in the air, so the calculations are the same. They were determined using the same equations as mentioned earlier. Potential energy is the stored energy of an object. In this experiment, since the object is stationary at the beginning and at the end, the initial and final energy was only due to the change in height off of the ground, also known as gravitational potential energy. Since energy cannot be created or destroyed, the initial energy will be greater than the final energy, because some of the initial energy was transformed into kinetic energy. Using the initial height, final height, and standard masses for each object, the change in energy was calculated. The change in energy for the football was negative 4.02 joules, for the volleyball was negative 6.53 joules, and for the basketball was negative 15.6 joules. In conclusion, the heaviest object, the basketball, had the greatest change in potential energy, since gravitational potential energy depends on mass. The object with the largest final velocity was the basketball and volleyball, since velocity depends on distance and time, and both objects spent the same amount of time in the air.